Good evening. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Seema Chowdhury and I head the Harappa School of Leadership. Thank you so much for joining the session today. We have with us Veda, who is essentially has been working with Harappa for a while now. He was one of my first faculties when we were making the Harappa courses on critical thinking and problem solving. He's here today to talk to us about a very special topic. He's currently the marketing leader at Microsoft, and he is also a visiting faculty at various business schools. He will be talking to us about cracking product messaging and positioning for startups. Veda has been conducting various programs on digital marketing, mobile marketing, influencer marketing, etc. And he's here to sort of have a conversation with you about his experiences. And he'll also open the session for Q&A after his session gets over. So you'll have plenty of time to ask your questions. Please feel free to put all questions in the Q&A. And as we go along with the session, we'll definitely sort of pick them up or definitely pick them at the end. Veda, the floor is all yours. Welcome. And thank you so much for doing this session with us.
Sure. Thanks for having me over once again, Seema. A big hello to everybody. Good evening. I hope all of you are doing great. Let me just take a moment to share my screen. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I take that as a yes. So today what we're going to be doing is, looking at how do you actually position your product and what kind of messaging for you to adopt for your startup. And we'll try and understand a few questions which I'm hoping are top of mind for a lot of you as entrepreneurs and founders or working professionals in startups. Like Seema mentioned, I am a marketing leader at Microsoft India. I used to previously take care of the SMB and the startup business at Razorpay. Prior to that, I used to, take care of marketing for Healthify Me, which happens to be today India's largest health and fitness mobile application. I used to take care of marketing before that at Simply Learn. So over the course of this session today, we look at a bunch of different case studies culled from all of these three, startup adventures as well. And hopefully that provides you some ideas and sparks conversations. This is meant to be an interactive session. So the presentation piece, we'll limit that to 30-35 minutes. And then we'll have, question and answers at the end. So like I mentioned, some of the top of mind questions, which I'm sure a lot of you have, are these. First is, one question, which I'm sure all of you have is, should I position my product as a premium one? Or should I project it as a massy product? If I do that, will my brand value, brand equity get eroded? Will it not be seen as quote unquote aspirational? Another question which a lot of people have is, how do I choose the right kind of marketing channels for my product positioning? Positioning is one thing, but how do I know which channels to go to for positioning my product? So these are some top of mind questions that I hear a lot from a lot of entrepreneurs that I interact with across various conversations that I keep having. In that lens, we'll start by understanding or solving the last question first, which is on the prioritization conundrum. And one of the top feedbacks that I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs is, for positioning my product, for marketing my services, there are so many different options from a digital marketing perspective. And I realize marketing is a team sport, and I need to do a combination of different activities for making sure that I'm able to get my brand message out there and position my product in the right lens. But how do I know what to prioritize? I'm not Amazon, I'm not Flipkart, I don't have infinite resources. So how do I know what are the channels that I need to prioritize and make as my P0? So what I'll do over the next few minutes is I'll give you a simple framework using which you can make these kinds of prioritization decisions for your organization. Listed before you here are some of the usual suspects in terms of top digital marketing channels, which you can leverage for positioning your product. I'm sure all of you understand Facebook and LinkedIn. SEM refers to search engine marketing, which essentially refers to all of the paid marketing efforts that you might be undertaking on Google search. Let's say that Seema is looking to plan a holiday in Kashmir. She searches for resorts in Kashmir. A real-time virtual auction happens every time somebody searches for something on Google. And you've got various advertisers bidding for the right to serve their ad, their product positioning message in the first slot for that particular keyword search query. Now, in this case, let's say that booking.com has bid $200, make my trip has bid 100 rupees. I'm oversimplifying the whole algorithm process, but booking.com would end up winning that particular auction because they have bid the highest. Their ad would come up on top in the search result. So all of the efforts that you as an entrepreneur, you as a marketer undertake to make sure that for relevant keyword search queries, your brand's positioning message bubbles up on top on search results queries is referred to as SEM, search engine marketing. You can set these up for free on AdWords, a Google AdWords platform. If Seema were to scroll a little further down in the same search results page, she would see a bunch of organic listings which do not have the ad tag against them. And if any of you were to click on those, if your customers were to click on those listings, your brand would not be charged any money. Unlike in the first case where booking.com would have been charged 200 rupees by Google. Now, these are organic listings based purely on merit. Now, all of the efforts that you undertake to make sure that your website's content is relevant, is the freshest, to make sure that it bubbles up higher and higher in Google's organic search ranking algorithm is referred to as SEO, search engine optimization. Now, a question that I'm often asked by entrepreneurs is, for me to position my product, how do I know which to make as my number one priority? Now, I'll give you a simple framework using which you can answer this question for yourself. The first question you need to ask yourself, I'm going to put Seema on the spot again. Let's say that Seema is an entrepreneur, and I hope you don't mind, Seema. And she's having this question, right? How do I know what to prioritize for getting my brand message out there? She needs to ask herself a question: the category or the space that I operate in, is that a mass space or is that a niche space? Am I a large fish in a small pond, a small fish in a really large pond? You know, there are a couple of ways in which Seema can answer this question. First is, as an entrepreneur, she has this gut-based instinct that tells her that, you know what, I sell t-shirts online, I sell saris online, I conduct mental wellness programs online, I'm niche, I sell saris online and mass. That is one way. Now, a more data-backed approach to either validating or challenging this gut-based hypothesis that Seema has as an entrepreneur is to use data. Open up the AdWords platform that I referred to, within which you have something called as the keyword planner, which essentially tells you for any keyword that you want to enter, what is the kind of keyword search volume out there in your target market, which is like the fastest and cheapest market research ever. I don't know why people waste time in statistical sampling and door-to-door market research anymore when you've got data from Google and search trends, Google search trends, which is available to you on your fingertips. So go on to AdWords, which is a free platform within which you have the keyword planner, enter core keywords that you believe are relevant to your business. Let's say it's buy saris online, buy t-shirts online, mental wellness classes online, yoga classes online, whatever your business is about, and see what are the kind of keyword search volumes out there. Now, it's not a perfect science, but if let's say your target market is India, for a target market which has the kind of internet population size that India has, if the monthly keyword search volumes for core keywords for your dhanda are in excess of 20 to 25,000 searches a month, you can assume that the category you're operating in to be fairly mass. If it's less than that, you assume it to be niche. Now, what does Seema do? If she's operating in a mass category, she makes Google search her number one priority for landing her positioning message. Why? Because it's common sense. There is this age-old saying that you need to be where your customers are. In this case, Seema is lucky enough to find herself in a category where she's not done anything, but somebody else has already done the hard work and made sure that the keyword search patterns are already manifesting on Google search. All Seema needs to do is to piggyback and to ride that wave and make sure that her brand message is available at that moment of truth when somebody is searching for a relevant keyword which is related to her business on Google search. So she makes a combination of SEM and SEO her focus. Now, what happens if she's not that lucky? She's operating in a category which is niche. She doesn't directly run to Facebook. What she does is she asks herself an additional question. Am I operating in a category which is high on empathy, high on emotional connect? And this doesn't happen naturally in a lot of categories. In some categories, it happens very naturally. Like, for example, health tech, the space that I was from at Healthify Me, which is about weight loss, or fashion, for that matter, which are very involved purchase decisions, where there is a very strong personal bond that you can make with your prospects. In such cases, Facebook becomes a very logical choice for you to land your positioning message, and it becomes your number one priority. For example, at Healthify Me, for those of you who are unaware, it is today India's largest health and fitness mobile application, a freemium application, which means some of it is free. The calorie counting service is free, which makes you more mindful of what you've eaten, your workout patterns, etc., how many vitamins, carbs you've consumed. The premium service involves creating a series of customized diet, fitness, and yoga plans as per the health goals of the user. Some people want to lose weight, some people want to gain muscle, some people want to get a six-pack ab before Valentine's Day. We used to get these requests. So depending on whatever the health goals are for the user. Now, in such cases, a user is essentially handing over their health and fitness requirements over to a mobile application. And weight loss is something which is as close to the personal identity of an individual as it can get. So which is why, and all of the communication that we used to use were video-led, testimonial-led communication, which was all high empathy communication, all of which did really well, on Facebook, check, which is why Facebook was the primary go-to channel for landing our product positioning message, because the category was such, it was a high emotional connect category. Now, of course, a lot of these are a little more applicable to B2C. Yeah, Seema, you're on mute.
Very quickly, I have a question here. This is someone who's asking if one should spend money on tools like Ahref and SEMrush, or is Google Trends enough? Will you be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, that is something that I was planning to address. SEMrush and SEO Moz and Ahrefs. These are probably the three best. These are my personal favorites again when it comes to keyword research tools. Or you could also look at the keyword planner. Google Trends doesn't give you absolute numbers. It just gives you indicative. It's an indexed score on a scale of 0 to 100, which tells you what is the kind of keyword search volume out there, but it doesn't give you absolute numbers. So I would certainly recommend either a Google keyword planner if you already know which keywords you want to search for. But if you don't know which keywords you want to search for, you could use any of these keyword research tools, which have been mentioned here on the chat. They will actually crawl your website. If you enter your website there, they'll crawl your website and suggest keywords. Seema, these are the keywords that are relevant for your business. And they'll actually tell you two things. One is they'll tell you the kind of keyword search volume and whether it's high, medium, low. And B, they will also tell you ranking difficulty. So a lot of startups, the mistake they make in SEO, which is a slight deviation to this topic, but a lot of startups, the mistake that they make is they focus on keywords which are very high in demand, which means keyword search volume is high, which means by definition, which is how the world works, the ranking difficulty would also be high, because invariably you will have a well-entrenched competitor who is already ranking on page one. So it's next to impossible for a new startup to break in. So one of the strategies that some successful startups have adopted who've cracked SEO is they go after low and medium demand long tail keywords, which have ranking difficulty, which is also medium or low. So they have some semblance of success in the first 3, 6, 9 months. And they build on top of that. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you for that. Now, coming back to our original train of thought, from a B2B perspective, if the companies that you're speaking to, the key personae that matter, the decision makers and the influencers, if they are white collar professionals who are fairly active on LinkedIn, you make a LinkedIn a logical focus. For example, at Healthify again, we also had a very strong corporate wellness practice. Where the CHRO was a primary decision maker that we were going after, the primary persona that mattered, fairly active on LinkedIn, which made LinkedIn a logical choice for landing the product positioning message. In some cases, digital does not even have to be the answer. I've mentored quite a few edtech companies that sell to schools, and not a lot of schools. School principal is a primary decision maker. Not a lot of school principals are, unfortunately enough, at least in India, active on LinkedIn, which means that, of course, you could still use Facebook and YouTube, but you're using a very mass platform, we're going after a very niche audience set. It's not going to be very ROI positive. So in such cases, I even tell them not even to look for answers in digital for landing your product positioning message. Use more high touch interventions like events, using which you can engage with these, key decision makers, principals, or channel partnerships. Now, having said that, let's come back to our original train of thought. Let's say Seema is extremely unlucky. She's operating in what I like to call a double whammy category, where she's operating in a category which is niche, which means not a lot of keyword search volumes for her category. It's a very nascent sunrise category. To make matters worse, the personal connect is also low. In some categories, that is how it happens. So what does she do? And at Razorpay, we had this exact same problem, right? For landing your product positioning message, what do you do? Because Razorpay operates in a niche category. It's not peer-to-peer payments like Google Pay, Phone Pay, etc. It is a B2B payments company, which enables businesses, startups like yours to be able to receive funds, to be able to send money, etc. as part of the neo-banking platform. Not a lot of search volume. And the key personae that Razorpay speaks to, the startup entrepreneur persona, which is people like you, the personal connect is not a lot. Let's face it, an entrepreneur doesn't wake up in the morning, jump out of bed and get excited about the fact that they want to start using a payments product. It's not like weight loss. It's not like health tech. So the personal connect is by definition low. So what do you do in such cases? What we did at Razorpay for landing the positioning message was we went slightly outside of our comfort zone. So we went to areas that were slightly neighboring to the business, but which had significantly higher keyword search volumes out there, because core dhanda centric keywords didn't really have too much of search volume. Like focus on B2B payments, payment gateway, etc. Not a lot of search volume. So we went after keyword pools that were slightly adjacent to the business. Like, for example, 3 themes that we fixated on. We in fact use SEO Moz, not SEMrush, but SEO Moz for figuring out these keyword pools: digital literacy, financial literacy, and compliance. These were the 3 keyword pool sets that we focused on. From a digital literacy perspective, what we did was we created blog content around how do you use digital marketing for growing your business. How do you build a social media brand presence? Financial literacy perspective, a lot of entrepreneurs are from a tech background. They don't have a clue how finance works. How do you read a P&L and a balance sheet? Compliance, how do you understand and navigate the GST maze? How do you figure out which GST tax slab you belong to? Releasing GST calculators, etc. These were the three things that we focused on. And here what we did was, you might question and ask, what is the relevance for these themes to raise a pace, dhanda and business? Because it's a payment gateway, not a lot. Yes, you're right. But the relevance for these content pieces to the target customer, which is the entrepreneur, is a lot. And more importantly, the keyword search volumes for these keyword pools are much, much, much larger than core B2B payment centric keywords. And that's how we got the brand positioning message out there to a larger, relevant eyeball universe, who of course are not at that point in time where they are looking to actually make a payment decision towards a payment gateway service provider. But these are still relevant customers. I've just caught them at a different point in their life cycle journey. So it gives my brand exposure to a larger audience because there are more people searching for these keywords, and I engage, nurture them over time to convert them into paying customers. Now, having said that context, let's look at the first of the three case studies that we have lined up today. Caselets, not so much a case study. First is on Healthify Me. Like I said, it's India's largest health tech platform today. It's a freemium application. The biggest problem statement that we were grappling with was inertia. I need to get that prospect to hand over their health and fitness requirements to a mobile application. That's not easy. So inertia was the biggest stumbling block that we were grappling with. The other thing was, of course, trust barrier. How do you get users to cross that trust divide, and how do you bridge that divide, and driving relatability? And from a positioning perspective, one of our, by the way, the key competitor of Healthify Me was and still continues to be CultFit, which is an omni-channel platform. But if you look at it from a product positioning lens, both of us went about it in polar opposite ways. If you look at CultFit, the way they positioned it was they had people who are already looking like Greek gods, like Hrithik Roshan, already very good-looking, healthy models, right? Men and women. These were the people who were featured in all of their advertisements. They were all celebrity-led, people who already were very good-looking, and it was very nutrition-centric, very youthful, right? They wanted to paint that very aspirational halo around the brand. Whereas if we look at Healthify Me, we had the polar opposite approach. What we did was we were very nutrition-led, in all of our communication. It was not so much about fitness, but about nutrition. Because we believed, both from our research and from keyword research, that nutrition is the overall determinant of somebody's well-being. And while fitness helps you release a few endorphins, it's about the food that you eat. So that was one. So in our product positioning, nutrition played a very strong role. And the second thing, all of the communication that we put out for landing the positioning was featuring everyday people like you and me, who talk about the life transformations that they have gone through, relatable life transformations that they have gone through by using the application, and not so much featuring a big celebrity like a Milind Soman or a Hrithik Roshan, etc. And the other thing that we also did was all video-led communication, and we never shied away from talking about the elephant in the room, that the dreaded W word, which is weight loss. We didn't shy away from talking about it because keyword research shows that is the thing Indians are most paranoid about. That's what they're searching about. So let's talk about that. And without beating around the bush, saying that we will help you lose weight. We never shied away from talking about it. There was this debate internally in the company as to whether we should talk about weight loss. Will that dilute the aspirational index of the brand? But we said, no, that is what Indians are searching for. India is now the weight loss capital of the world. So why should we shy away from talking about the T-Rex, not even the elephant, the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the room? So which is why nutrition-led communication, which came through from our keyword research and customer research, and the medical research that we had done, talking about, being very, video-led, high empathy communication-led in all of our efforts. That was the second thing that we did. And the third thing that we also very consciously focused on was to talk about weight loss, which is the key thing that's bothering a lot of Indians. The other thing, the key elements of our marketing recipe, Facebook, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, worked really well. But I just want to talk to you about the journey that we went through in making Google a very close second. And Google, it's a very interesting journey that we went through. It's also related to the topic that we're discussing today. Google launched something called as Universal App Campaigns, approximately 6-7 years ago, UAC campaigns, which essentially became the de facto way for you to drive app install efforts for your mobile application. When it was first launched, all advertisers hated it because you had to give up control. Nobody likes giving control, right? You essentially had to say, Google Baba, we trust. Because you essentially had to give Google your apps, Play Store listing, iTunes listing, your creatives, and Google would decide whom to run the ad to when. you had limited no control. And of course, you could define your overall sandbox saying, I want to run ads only in India or Middle East or Southeast Asia, whatever your target geography is. But beyond that, you had very limited control. So here again, when we first launched UAC campaigns in Healthy Family, the results were pretty poor. They were underwhelming. It was a distant second to Facebook. What we did was we persisted with it. We implemented something called as a Google Pixel. I'm going to get a little technical here, but I'll tell you the reason why in the next few seconds. A pixel is a small piece of JavaScript code that you can embed in your mobile application or your web page's front-end code, which executes or runs every time your page renders, and which passes information back to its masters, which in this case is Google. Think of it as a simple mole within your application or a spy, which passes information back to Google. I'm going to break it down with a simple example. Let me put Deepanita on the spot now. I'll give Seema a break. Let's say Deepanita registers and registers on the Healthy Family application, downloads and registers it. She's gone through the registration process. She has just completed a very important upstream life cycle event in her life cycle of engagement with the Healthy Family application. Right? The Pixel sends its information back into the Google ecosystem, completely anonymized and aggregated, without any personally identifiable information, PII, being shared. Essentially giving information of Deepanita's psychographic profile. Deepanita is a millennial from Delhi who loves fashion, cricket, and maybe politics, right? Information like this. Geographical details, demographic details, without revealing her any personally identifiable information. Now, Deepanita continues to engage with the app. She signs up for a 7-day free trial. Important event, I send this information back. She eventually spends $8,000 in picking up a 6-month plan. Downstream lifecycle information passes. This information is again passed back into the Google ecosystem. Now, what I tell Google is this: Google, listen, Deepanita is a good customer. Go find me 100 more clones of Deepanita who exhibit the same digital psychographic traits, or what I like to call, have the same digital Janam Kundali as Deepanita. Right? And Google has AML algorithms using which they try, it tries to find similar digital clones to Deepanita who will also resonate with your product positioning message. Now, the accuracy of the algorithm is limited when it has a small data set to play with. But as we continue to pump data into the Google ecosystem, instead of giving it information of one Deepanita, asking it to find the next 100, we gave it information of 1,000 Deepanitas, asking it to find the next 100,000. And the algorithm got better over time because it had more data to play with, and which is how UAC became a very close second for landing our product positioning message to Facebook. This is what I like to call inside out targeting. A lot of mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make is they have this idea in their heads that this is the positioning that I want to land to this target audience, and they run with that assumption. Like we did at Healthy Family, we thought the millennial, like everybody else, the millennial was our ideal customer persona. Turns out it wasn't. It was actually people from my age bracket who are older, beyond the millennial age group, who had the right target audience because they've had some kind of a lifestyle condition. They had more money to spend, and they just converted better, right? And that was the reason why we went after older audiences. And how did we know that? This pixel actually informed us, because the algorithm was optimizing to find more older and older people, because those were the ones that were actually converting. The younger ones were just being free users. So the product positioning message was resonating well with the older demographic buckets and not so much the younger ones. How did we didn't know that. How did we know that? The data informed us. This is what I like to call inside out targeting. The traditional form of targeting is outside in, wherein you as an entrepreneur decide which audience set you want to run your ads to. In this case, you're letting data and you're letting user behavior within your own application either validate, or in this case, like in the Healthy Family case, challenge your original hypothesis on who your ideal customer persona is for whom you want to run communication. We also had a bunch of other marketing channels that work for us, but I'm not going to get into that today. That's a conversation for another day. What we're going to do is we're going to delve into the Razorpay discussion. Like I mentioned earlier, India's largest B2B payments platform. There was a latent need for users, but that didn't really bubble up on search. So we didn't really see a lot of search queries coming up on search. It's a very niche category. The category is not glamorous enough. Like I said, not a lot of natural personal pull, which is why we went after a lot of the alternative keyword pools that I spoke about, which are slightly adjacent to the business: digital literacy, financial literacy, compliance, which gave the brand exposure to a larger eyeball universe who could be brought into the funnel, engaged, nurtured over time to be converted into paying customers. The third thing that I want to talk about is Simply Learn. And at Simply Learn, again, Simply Learn, for those of you who are unaware, it is today one of the world's leading professional online certification platforms, providing courses in a multitude of different categories, from data science to digital marketing, iOS, Android programming, etc. Competes with Pluralsight, Skillshare, etc., Skillsoft, etc., etc. Now, the category that a Simply Learn operates in, it's not K-12. It is for working professionals. It has both the B2C and the B2B business. One of the biggest problems is the fact that there is rampant competition, A. And the other big problem is even students, A, there is a lot of inertia, very similar to the Vedantham case, because a lot of working professionals already have jobs. So getting them to invest in their upskilling is a challenge. A lot of people get together over beer on weekends saying kuch karte hain, but they don't actually get to act on it. So how do you get them to break that inertia and invest in their growth? And the students who actually pick up courses, a lot of them don't even end up completing it. So a lot worldwide, Udemy, Udacity, Coursera, Skillsoft, Pluralsight, all of these top players have completion rates, course completion rates, which are in low single digits. Seema would know this, she's from the same space. And at Simply Learn, that was again something that we wanted to address. So the trust deficit, the inertia, low completion rates, rampant competition. And we had this huge debate internally when we went about positioning the brand and the product as to whether we should talk about certifications. And the other big thing that a lot of brands had is on the B2C side in particular, they were selling courses which were extremely low on the price point. Whereas at Simply Learn, we were selling courses, we wanted to sell courses which had a very high ASP, average selling price. And that is also a price discovery process that you would also go through as an entrepreneur. Typically, you need to start from the higher bracket because it's a one-way street. Once you price it low, it's very difficult to increase it. So typically you start by pricing it high. And we had this huge debate, should we talk about certifications? And we came to the realization through our customer research that, you know what, we should include certifications very proudly. There was a school of thought internally which said that if you position the brand around certifications and you include that very boldly, it will bring down the aspirational value of the brand, because it seems very tactical and it seems very surface level, and you should talk about learning, right, and not so much about certification, which is the end outcome. But we came to the realization that in India, at least, Indians prefer outcome-based learning, and the certification tag is very important for them because people are not just looking for learning for the sake of learning or for the joy of learning, which is what a lot of the other brands spoke about. But people are looking for outcome-focused learning opportunities, which will give them a tangible end output, either in terms of a salary rise or a promotion, a pay hike, better job prospects, etc., etc. So we focused very consciously on certifications. And because there was a specific outcome or an end goal that was also attached, and because of the fact that there was a certification, which was a joint certification, Simply Learn with an AWS or Simply Learn with some other brand, which was also being offered, people were willing to pay a premium for it. Because a lot of the courses in Udemy and Coursera were $5, $20, etc. Whereas we were able to charge 15,000, 20,000 rupees. And to some of the overseas markets, we charged even higher. And that was the reason why Simply Learn was able to command a premium. And that was the unique selling proposition for Simply Learn because of the fact that it was outcome-based learning. And that was also the reason why completion rates became much higher and students' NPS was much larger, because students knew that if I complete this course, which will enable me to A, do a better job in my current role itself, and B, look for better prospects beyond my current role. And since that was available for them, the completion rates were also much stronger because students had much, significantly larger motivation to actually power through the course and complete it. So those were the things that we did. So in summary, your customer and the core USPs of your brand need to determine your overall positioning strategy. I spoke to you about Vedantham and Simply Learn, where we took a completely polar opposite view to positioning our brand compared to what all of the other competitors did. In Razorpay, again, we went completely outside of our comfort zone because the nature of the category we were operating in was such. And your category, right, depending on which category you operate in, that is the one that determines which are the key marketing channels you're going to leverage for landing your positioning message. Yeah, I hope that was useful. That's all I had for you today. Love to hear any questions that you might have.
Okay, Veda. So what I'm going to do is there are some questions in the Q&A, and then what I'll also start doing is some people have raised their hands. I'll unmute some of them and allow them to sort of ask the questions. I'll start with a question that has come from Surya Narayan. He wants to know what kind of metrics are good for FB ads.
So it's a good question, Surya. I think a couple of things for you to focus on. One is obviously the regular metrics in terms of what is your CPM, what is your CPC, what is your cost per lead. You need to measure all of that to know if you're getting leads. If the campaign itself is from a top of the funnel perspective, if your campaign is landing the right message to the right audience. The other thing that you should also measure is, so I'll give you an example. At Healthify Me, Facebook was the primary breadwinner for us. Now, let's say that Seema is my boss. I'm part of her team. Seema comes in and I tell her that she's just given me 10 lakhs for running a new campaign on Facebook. And I launch this campaign. And typically our sales cycles in Healthify Me are a month long, which means it takes 1 month approximately for a prospect to become a paying customer. Let's say that we launch this campaign on Monday and it's been like a couple of days now. And she comes and asks me, Veda, how's the campaign doing? Now, there are a couple of ways in which I can answer that. Right? One is I can say, Seema, it's been just 2 days. Our sales cycles are a month long. So we need to wait for a month, blow all the 10 lakhs in the campaign before we know if it's working or not. Or the other thing that I can sell is, Seema, we've launched this campaign now, which will be 2 days, but we have some lead indicators that we've also measured, which will help us understand that this campaign is trending in the right direction, which goes beyond just your Facebook metrics, which are essentially your app engagement numbers. So what I can tell her is typically our app engagement, which is of all of the people who come through Facebook as a channel. If I look at all of the other baseline campaigns that are currently running today, our app engagement rates are say 6, 7, 10% over the first 3 days after launching the campaign. In this case, we are seeing similar numbers. So this campaign is trending in the right direction, which means the quality of people that I am pulling through are similar, if not better, than the quality of people that I am pulling through other campaigns. In terms of revenue, we haven't realized it yet, but the early signs, the lead indicators are positive. So that is another metric that I would urge you to measure. Or what I could tell Seema is, you know what, Seema, the lead indicators for this campaign are pathetic. We have spent 50,000 rupees so far, but the engagement rates are 0.5% compared to the 10% numbers that we get from all of the other Facebook campaigns. So we're going to stop the bleeding. We spent 50,000 bucks. We're going to stop the campaign now. We've saved 9.5 lakhs. We go back to the drawing board and we're going to come back with a new campaign. That's also acceptable. So I would urge you to measure not just the regular Facebook metrics in terms of CPM, CPC, reach, etc., but also lead indicators like what are your engagement rates from a Facebook, apart from, of course, conversion metrics, which you get, lifetime value that you're able to measure. All of those metrics also matter. But what is really important is you also measure lead indicators, which is something a lot of marketers don't measure. I hope that answered your question, Surya. Wish you all the best.
There is Bhavi who has put up her hand. Bhavi, if it's possible for you to put your question in the Q&A, it would help. Meanwhile, I'll pick up a question from someone whose name is not here. They just wanted, they find the session interesting, and he or she wants to know if social media viral stuff and real-time marketing can help small startups, or is this just a short-lived gimmick?
So I think it can totally help, and I'll give you an example. I think one of the startups that's doing a fantastic job of very hatke social media brand building. I wouldn't say virality. I think the V word is a very abused word in marketing, but very hatke marketing on social is this company called Whole Truth Foods. I don't know how many of you here have heard of this brand. I can send you a bunch of references to look them up. They've done some fantastic work in putting out some very hatke viral social campaigns. I would totally, urge you to look at that. Another one is real-time marketing. I'm assuming what you mean is moment marketing. Another example of fantastic moment marketing for generating virality was done by Magic Pin. Now, all of us know that Cred is hugely funded, and they're not an early stage startup. They've raised tons of money. But after their famous Rahul Dravid viral campaign that they did, that they blew a lot of money on, right? Indira Nagar Ka Gunda. I'm sure all of you have seen this. Magic Pin released within the same week a fantastic spoof campaign where they essentially poked holes and made a lot of fun on the entire Cred narrative and their ad strategy. And that became viral because with very little paid spends, they don't have money to spend. That essentially got a lot of earned media through social share. So short answer to your question is yes. Look at both of these examples, Whole Truth Foods and Magic Pin. Hope that helps. Wish you all the best.
We have a question here from Siddhant Jha. Does Google track digital psychography cohort?
No, mapping? So short answer is Siddhant, they do. So if you implement the pixel, they would capture all of this information, and not just psychographic mapping, demographic, geographic data, all of this. They would capture all of this, and the algorithm is self-learning. It will try to optimize depending on whatever your goals are. If my goal is conversion and I want to drive revenue, it will try to find you more people who will be able. If Seema is a person who drives revenue for me, Deepanita is not. Deepan is somebody who's more a free user, for example, as a case, just hypothetically. Google will try to find me more Seemas who are similar to a Seema, more clones of Seema. Hope that answered your question.
Okay, Palak has a few questions, but I'll pick up this, and I've been hearing this a lot as well. Has Instagram, are sort of Instagram and Facebook ads losing their efficacy? How true is this?
I mean, it depends on the category that you're operating in. Like I said, at Healthy Family, Facebook still continues to be the number one. Instagram is a part of Facebook, of course. And of course, in some cases, it gets difficult, especially because, for example, Apple is refusing to share user data on Facebook, which makes targeting difficult. So targeting iPhone users via Facebook is becoming more and more difficult. But I would say it depends on the category that you're operating in. Globally, ad spends are going lower. So that is not just for Facebook, that's for Google as well. But in general, Google is a lot more reliable because it is more inbound, because you've got a specific keyword search that has happened. On that basis, you're actually making an action. I hope that answered your question.
This one is interesting. This is Jaykumar Gaurav says, how to promote green products like composters, plastic alternatives, or issues which many people might find boring.
I think, Jay, I would suggest you use the same framework that I mentioned earlier, wherein you figure out if you're mass or your niche. I think in your case, it is a lot more massy than it used to be, but you would know your business better. What I would suggest is you leverage Keyword Planner or one of the keyword search tools that we discussed to figure out what are the kind of keyword search volumes out there. If it is above a certain number, 20-25,000 per month in India, then you focus a lot on creating high quality content on your blog, for example, for going after the keywords which are already being searched about, right? Which on Google, all you need to do is to piggyback and to ride that wave. You don't have to create fresh behavior patterns. The behavior patterns are already out there for you to piggyback and ride the wave. So that is something that I would suggest.
This is a long one, Veda, from Saurav Chanda. He says he thinks it's a rudimentary question. If my consumer goods product is mass oriented in India, but could possibly be exotic or a rare product in the global market, especially in terms of knowledge and awareness, what should I aim for? I think he wants to know which geography should he aim for. Imagine an indigenous form of alcohol, organic cosmetics, perfumes, or similar, which are minimally known or accessible in the global market.
So I'm assuming, Saurabh, what your question is, how do you go to market globally? If this is what, if these are the kind of products that you're selling, I think here again, I would suggest you follow the same approach. For this geography, for these kinds of categories, is there any existing keyword search pattern? Take a look at that. If so, make Google search your focus. Given that these are fairly exotic, I'm just trying to open up your question again.
It's in the answered thing here.
Answered, okay.
Of indigenous form of alcohol, organic cosmetics, perfumes, or similar products.
I think this again, it could be included under the self-care category. So in which case you could also try experiments on Facebook. But what I would do is look at search patterns to see if there is enough of a search volume on Google to begin with. If it is in your case, given that it's a niche area, probably not. So I would imagine there wouldn't be existing keyword search patterns already on Google for you to piggyback on very comfortably. So you could take the razor pay approach in this case, wherein you project yourself as a lifestyle brand and you piggyback and ride the wave on areas that are slightly adjacent to your business's immediate area of relevance, like we did at Razorpay, right? We went after digital literacy, financial literacy, compliance, not very relevant to the business, but still adjacent and relevant to the target customer. So focus on those key, and more importantly, having much larger keyword search volumes. So essentially, if you're going after the HNI customer, high net worth customer in global locations, that is another thing that for you to try on. One is having tightly controlled experiments on Facebook. And B, going after keyword pools, like I said, which are slightly beyond your business's realm of relevance, which are still relevant for your customer. For example, focusing on overall lifestyle, right? And things like these, which will have much larger keyword search volumes. They may not be relevant to your dhanda, but it helps your brand get exposed to a relevant and a large eyeball universe.
Prachi,
wish you all the best.
Prachi Gupta has a question. Can you explain how channel partners can be leveraged with limited marketing budget in case where digital does not work?
So channel partners ke saath, one of the things that you could do, Prachi, is have some kind of a revenue share arrangement. You don't really need a lot of marketing support, especially in cases where, for example, as a case in point, EdTech, where mentored quite a few startups which sell to schools, which are long sales cycles. Seema would know about this, right? Long gestation cycles, very relationship-driven selling. And in such cases, if you have a channel partner who's already been there, done that, already has the network and the relationship established with these schools, it makes sense for you to piggyback, bundle your offering along with theirs and have a revenue share. That's what I would suggest. So it essentially shortens your learning curve.
I'll pick up one more question from Palak. Palak is a student from the Accelerated Management Program, Veda, and she's also been a startup entrepreneur at one point in time. And she's also going to start an entrepreneurship club with her cohort. That's what I'm given to understand. She wants to know, do you have any examples of B2B companies which are doing great organic brand present campaigns on LinkedIn, not using LinkedIn ads?
Yeah, there are multiple campaigns. I think some of the best brands would be, one of my best brands is, of course, Microsoft, of course, but beyond Microsoft, I would say Razorpay and MoEngage. These are two brands that are top of mind for me. Razorpay doesn't spend a lot on, hardly spends any money on LinkedIn. In terms of paid promotions, a lot of the organic content they put out is very strong. And the other example, great example, is MoEngage, in my view.
I'll pick up a question from Swati Divakar. If you had to look back at Simply Learn, I think she means, or Healthify Me journey, what is the one thing that you would do differently?
I think at Healthify Me for a long time, we didn't focus enough on user retention and reactivation. We focused a lot on customer acquisition, which to me was a mistake. I think in this day and age, the kind of times that we live in, especially given the kind of times that we live in, where working capital is hard to come by, everybody is looking for productivity, slashing marketing budgets, etc. I think one of the things that you should focus on is, there is a saying that every retained customer is worth 5 new customers that you can acquire. So make sure that you focus on maximizing customer lifetime value, retention of the existing prospects and customers that you have, A, and B, as much, if not more, as on acquisition, which we didn't, something I would have loved to do differently. The other thing is focusing on reactivation. People who have left your brand, but they've already had a touch point with your brand. How do you get them to come back?
Okay, this is, I think, a question that many of us would love to sort of have answers to. It says, how do we use tools like ChatGPT in the future for digital marketing?
I think that's a good question. I think it's replacing. I've read an article that says that BuzzFeed, which is one of the world's largest publishing platforms, has revamped or replaced their entire content team with ChatGPT. So a lot of the, I think, execution heavy roles will start getting replaced by ChatGPT. I think what you could do is make sure that ChatGPT plays a role in managing your overall customer experience. I think there it has a very strong role to play. In terms of marketing itself and in terms of OpenAI, I think a lot of brands are still discovering this. I think just essentially leveraging, OpenAI into the overall, or rather feeding a lot of your, if you have huge data sets, large volumes of data, for example, from your Facebook platform, you've been running campaigns for a while, you could feed that to OpenAI for them to do the analysis, to the OpenAI, APIs, for them to give you a point of view on, what campaigns tweaks are necessary for you to drive more optimum ROI results from from your entire portfolio of campaigns that you're running. That could be potentially one way. But I think a lot of the incremental benefit will essentially come from, I don't think a lot of the thinking and the conceptualization that is required, that is happening in marketing, that will be replaced by an algorithm. I think a lot of the execution centric roles could potentially be done away with, and OpenAI and ChatGPT could probably replace a lot of these roles. But the thinking, conceptualization, and the decision making roles, which require again heavy subject matter expertise, those will still continue to remain in human hands.
So they're not taking away our jobs right now, are they, in education?
Yeah, I don't think so, Seema.
Okay. Interesting. There's a question, I think there's someone else has also asked, how do we devise a strategy for a data dark sector such as agriculture? I think there's someone else also who's asked a question regarding agriculture, and how do you sort of target farmers who are not tech savvy?
I think farmers, etc., are an interesting one, because those customers, they don't really look at Google search results as much. So I think YouTube to me is a great channel for going after this sector, and in local vernacular, using local vernacular as your communication medium and leveraging YouTube and creating high quality content pieces on YouTube. To me, that is something that I would focus on if you were operating in this space. And of course, channel partnerships in this case again, because if you have maybe a farmer body that you can work with, or any other brand that is already having a strong, well-oiled go-to-market machinery, which takes them to farmers, working with players like these, that would be my suggestion.
We have a question from Dharyesh, who's again an AMP learner. He wants to know what would be the strategy for products which have seasonality, are niche, and also there's limited awareness about them.
I think in this case, you should probably look, I don't know what category this belongs to. I think if it is niche, use the same framework that I mentioned, which rules out Google search per se. But given it is seasonality, Facebook potentially could be a fit, assuming that personal connect is high. If neither of these apply, then you, like I said earlier, have the razor pay approach, where you go after areas that are slightly, let's say you're selling mangoes, for example, which is a highly seasonal product. I don't know what the product is that is being sold here, but let's say you're selling mangoes online, which is highly seasonal. In such cases, I would also go beyond the regular immediate realm of relevance of your business and go after adjacent keyword pools and areas which are still relevant for your target customer. It depends on who your target customer is, and make sure that you're creating content that speaks to their target customer, even if it is not very relevant for your business.
He says it's an air purifier.
Air purifier, I don't think that is that niche though. You need to look at keyword search volumes. I think there is a lot of search queries which are already out there. If it does happen to be niche, I think Facebook would still be a good platform, because I think the personal connect for this one should be reasonably strong. So you could certainly leverage Facebook. And what I would also suggest is go after larger keyword sets which are around healthy living, around breathing clean air, around living in a less polluted environment. Essentially create a blog property which talks about all of these different keyword sets, which may not be very relevant to your dhanda, right, but are still very relevant for a relevant target customer that you're going after, which is the health conscious, well-off, upper middle class metro Indian, which I'm assuming is the definition of your target customer. For them, it is still a relevant piece of content that they want to read, and it is slightly adjacent, if not immediately adjacent to your business's realm of relevance. That's what I would suggest.
This is an interesting one. What is the suggested marketing strategy for an MVP?
I think, Varun, great question. One of the things that I suggest is, in fact, what I tell a lot of early stage startups is don't spend on marketing, leverage the maximum possible juice from organic marketing efforts, SEO, customer referrals, earned media from social media shares, etc. Well, let's say that you have to spend, in marketing, because you can't, a lot of these organic efforts take 6-9 months to bear fruit. You can't wait that long. Let's say you have an MVP that you've launched, you want to know results, right? You want to know if this is working or not in the next few weeks or the month. So in such cases, what I tell them is you spend enough in marketing, based on the framework that I mentioned earlier. Just choose your platform, spend enough in marketing to get a critical mass of early adopter leads into your funnel. Now, in my view, the definition of critical mass is 100 if you are in the B2C space, and it is 5 if you're in high-end B2B. So spend enough to get these many leads into your system, and then shut off your marketing efforts, and then try to see if your MVP assumptions work on this initial cohort of early adopter leads that you have in the system. Do they feel it doesn't work? What kind of feedback are these leads giving? And is your product good enough to drive revenue? So that is what I would suggest. I hope that helps. Wish you all the best. And then you, of course, iterate and improve on your MVP based on feedback from your customers.
Can we also add on to this? It's a question from Anuradha. Again, I think she's an AMP learner. Can you talk a little bit more about organic marketing? Organic marketing
is a lot of your SEO efforts, Anuradha, that we spoke about, search engine optimization efforts, where you don't really spend a lot of money, but you keep creating high quality content. Your investment there is, of course, of time, because you need to spend the time to invest in creating content, because you don't get charged when somebody clicks on this piece of content. So that's why it's called organic effort. You, of course, spend money in creating the content potentially. You spend time in creating the content, and you need to probably invest in a SEO keyword research tool, like an SEO Moz or a SEMrush, but they come cheap. They're like $50 a month or $100 a month. So you get it at really cheap rates. So those should be the spend. So that is an example of organic marketing. Customer referrals are another example where I get customers to refer other people in their network, which is, you can technically say it's not organic because you would be incentivizing your customer, but it does come, under the realm of organic marketing. The other thing is potentially on creating viral content that people want to share and reshare, right? You create content that is so interesting that people want to reshare. So you create some high quality content pieces which position yourself as a domain authority in the space that you operate in, which people want to reshare, especially applicable in the B2B space. Yeah, I hope that helps. Wish you all the best, Anuradha.
One more question. I don't have a name here. What is the best strategy you have seen for effective B2B lead generation and using LinkedIn?
So one of the best ways is LinkedIn has something called as account-based marketing that you can run. It's called ABM, which essentially means, let's say you're going after a list of say 5,000 named accounts in India in the B2B space, right? You're in the B2B space, and you essentially upload those accounts and you give LinkedIn a clear suggestion saying, I want to go after people who are only, from the HR division, or who are CXOs, even if they're a director of HR and above, somebody who's from HR has a designation of director and above, or who's a CXO. Even if they're outside of HR, it's okay because they're senior enough to influence the decision. These are the people that I want to go after. You can give LinkedIn that direction. And LinkedIn will specifically, I don't want to waste money in running ads for other people outside of this. So LinkedIn will run ads only for these individuals from these companies. That is something that I would recommend. And you can have a lead generation effort that happens right there from LinkedIn. You can integrate it to your CRM. So the lead flows real time into your CRM tool for your salesperson to pick it up. Hope that helps. Wish you all the best.
Surya has a question and also wants to know if you can recommend any resources or books.
Moz has a fantastic, Moz.com has a fantastic blog that I go to. I think that's a fantastic one. Rand Fishkin, the founder of Moz, had also released this book, Lost and Founder. Fantastic book that I would recommend from multiple lenses. One is purely from a digital marketing lens. Second is he shares his in the trenches experiences as a startup founder and an entrepreneur. And we typically hear the startup books are written by the Elon Musks of the world, right? People have been very successful. But this is an example of a startup founder who's middlingly successful, and he's had a bunch of failures as well. And that's a fantastic book that I would recommend. Other people that I follow are Neil Patel. He's in fact the founder of Ahrefs as well. Fantastic. He has a fantastic blog, and Avinash Kaushik's blog.
I think they haven't got the name. Any chance you can quickly type it in?
Here. I'll just type it on the chat.
Yeah.
Neil Patel.
And we'll paste it here for everyone. So Neil Patel has a blog, you said?
Oh, I just need to, okay, I'll just paste it for everyone. All of these guys have blogs. Moz.com blog. Then what else did I say? Guy Kawasaki, another person. Then Lost and Founder.
So we'll send this, Surya. We've got all of these down. We'll send it to everyone, on, and also to other people who have sort of come in. Dipanita, if you can see it, can you type it in the chat quickly? All of this.
Yes, Seema.
Type it on the chat for everybody.
Okay. So how important is it to update the blog content to stay relevant in Google search? Because from time to time, Google makes changes to its algorithm. How to deal with this?
Yeah, so Daryash, you need one of the things that Google looks at as part of ranking, content relevance and content freshness is also important. So Google does give points for that. So you need to make sure that your content is being updated regularly to stay relevant. Otherwise, Google will stop ranking you. And make sure that the user experience of your page is also good, because if people come to your page, don't find anything relevant, or your page takes forever to load, or your page is difficult to navigate, they go back. That's a signal to Google that your page is not great. So it'll start pulling down your rank. So make sure you focus on the relevance of your content, the freshness of your content. That is something which is very important. What I would also suggest is don't go for keyword stuffing, but make sure that your content reads well for a human being. So if it reads, the way Google's algorithms work today is don't create content for a bot, but create content for a human. As long as it reads well for a human, it is relevant for a human, it will rank well on Google search. I hope that helps.
Will Chat GPT help here?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can give it any kind of questions and give you answers. So you certainly use it as a sounding board from a marketing perspective. If you're coming up with a marketing campaign, you can certainly use it as a sounding board. Even if it doesn't have relevant answers, it learns very quickly. It's a self-learning platform. Yeah.
Okay, last question. I think Surya is the one who's really going for it. But Surya, we'll probably have to again tell him what industry this is. He says, how does one go about repositioning a company which is in a dying industry to a slightly different but more relevant industry? That's a tough one.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about this business, but what you could do is, again, use the same framework that I mentioned earlier. And I would suggest creating a new brand identity instead of start from scratch. Instead of trying to revive a brand that is already dying and is operating in a category which is going down, I would say start from scratch, build a new brand from ground up, and use the same framework that we discussed earlier for landing your product messaging.
All right. So I'd like to say thank you so much, Veda, for taking so much time to answer all the questions. For the rest of you who are not from the Accelerated Management Program or don't know about ETSOL, I'm going to request Dipanita to put up our website address. If you want to know more, please feel free to get in touch with any one of us. I'd like to say thank you so much, Veda, and we need to connect. I mean, I've been hearing all of this from you now, and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I come to you earlier? So I'm reaching out to you very soon. But thank you for doing this for all of us. And I hope our learners, as well as people who came from other sources, enjoyed the session. We did.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me over. A big thank you to all the people who stayed up at, till 8:30 on a Wednesday evening. Have a fairly unique name and fairly active on LinkedIn. Love to connect, love to stay in touch, and wish all of you good health. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.